Well, let's take a look at this now. The Western Cape has a long and painful history of drugs tearing communities apart. Well, the problem persists even today. Now, drug addicts who can't afford private treatment and rely on state rehab centers have to wait between 3 and 4 months for an opening. Well, the SA National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence says only a few addicts and their families can afford the inpatient treatment, even if it's state subsidized. Well, let's get more on the story. We're speaking to Western Cape Social Development MEC Fritz on the line, or at least in our Cape Town studios. A very good morning to you, sir. Thanks again for joining us. Now, impoverished drug users who acknowledge they have a problem, who are taking that first step to receiving help, have to wait 3 to 4 months to receive this. Would you concede that this is a problem?
Yeah, good morning. And can I just start off by saying that one of the first things that we've noticed now since April, May, June, that there's a massive spike in the number of the demand for treatment at treatment centers. Now, rehabilitation and inpatient centers, that's one type of treatment. We also have basic treatment centers where anyone who who can get outpatient treatment for the kind of addiction that person suffers or the problem that person has. So the point we want to firstly make is that inpatient depends on the nature of the addiction and the type of drug that the person is on.
But wouldn't you agree that time is of the essence here? I want to look at that waiting period of 3 to 4 months. For someone who's hooked on drugs, it can be literally a matter of life and death. And inpatient treatment is preferential there. It's something that needs to take place to ensure success. You did mention that the variation of the kind of drugs, etc., plays a big role. But for someone who's hooked on drugs and needs to be in a rehab center, 3 to 4 months could be a matter of life and death.
Yeah, in fact, we take that very seriously. And in fact, I've already given instruction to look at how can we increase the bed space at a number of the treatment centers around the province. We need to also look in certain areas in the province where there are no treatment centers at all, where people come down to the nearest town for that treatment. But I think we need to emphasize that there are outpatient and inpatient. And a number of the problems that we have encountered and that we have seen in the province where there's a need for outpatient so that people can rehabilitate and get well within the context of their family, not removed from the family, and within the context of that community. And I tell you, that program works.
How successful is the outpatient program? Doesn't it run the risk of the person still getting hooked up with gangs and that peer pressure to make them backslide or fall off the wagon, as it were, if there are outpatients? How successful is it?
I just want to say that we have phenomenally interesting and very, very great NGOs working in the substance abuse NGO sector. And I tell you, they're doing wonderful work. And one of the very, very big successes that we have seen specifically in the province and how those guys get onto other programs, because this is the point. It's okay to get a treatment. What happens with your aftercare treatment? And that is where we have our other programs, like the Chrysalis Youth Academy, coming in, assisting those young people to walk the way forward within the context of that family and the community. And the family becomes incredibly important in terms of support, and that community. And therefore, our other youth structures really just absorb them into those programs.
Very, very briefly, we're extremely pressed for time. Is there political will to deal with the situation of drugs in the Western Cape? We saw President Jacob Zuma in Eldorado Park. I want to talk about national government and also provincial structures. Is there political will to change the situation in the Western Cape?
Yeah, the Western Cape government would really like to see far more, not just from the Social Development Department, but far more intervention and the real clamping down on drug lords, like they did in Eldorado Park, by the National Department and the National Police. And and I know President Zuma's coming on Friday to Cape Town. I would really like to meet and tell him, please come and bring that interventions that you made, clamping down on drug lords, closing down the drug lords on our townships, and really instituting the gang unit again, because it's all about the gang territory and the drug market where gangs exist. So we really would really welcome the national intervention by the president, like he did in Eldorado Park.
We'll have to leave it there. Thank you again for your time. Fritz, Western Cape Social Development MEC.
News that moves. eNCA.com.